I'm delighted to say I've already had some lovely comments about my latest book, The Floating Witch Mystery, and quite a few of them have mentioned the setting or world building. So that's prompted me to talk about how important setting is in books and my tips about how I go about thinking and writing about setting. 1, you want to take readers on a journey. It helps the reader to imagine if you can engage all their senses and their emotions, and setting really helps with that. The more readers can imagine where you as a writer are picturing the action and taking them, helps to build that bridge between your imagination and theirs. 2, you only need as much setting as the story needs. There are plenty of wonderful books that describe setting in luxurious detail, but I don't write those sorts of books. I want the reader to feel the action and conversations are not taking place in some blank room. I want them to engage with where the action is taking place. Setting has personality, but I don't want the setting getting in the way of the action. I try to weave setting into the story so that it feels important to the action rather than slowing it down. One thing writing for children teaches you is that you have to do everything in a really small word count. Children's books for the age I write for are about half the length of an adult book. So you learn to be quite sparse and clear and make each word count. And that particularly applies to setting. I try to describe only as much as I feel the reader needs by working out what's important for them to see, hear, smell, feel, or understand. Why exactly have you set your story there? If your story takes place in, say, a seaside hotel, ask yourself why you set it here, what's important about it. You may find you may not need too much more than a hint of whether you can hear the sea, if the hotel is grand or cosy. Think about what your setting is adding to the story. 3, the easiest way to convey a world is through small telling details. My settings are always made more complicated by the fact they are what's called magic realism, a world just like ours, but slightly different. It's not easy to convey simply and with the restriction of a small word count. I try to think of things that mark out a place as being different or noteworthy. So my latest book, The Floating Witch Mystery, is set on a tiny island in a river. It's not far from a town, but in the story, people only arrive or leave by boat or on foot across the loch. There's very few references to cars or roads. The river can be seen from everywhere, so the river becomes a character and many scenes feature what the river is doing. I also have to weave in a magical system, which is why fantasy books tend to be longer than other stories. In The Floating Witch Mystery, my main magical character is the floating witch of the title, Hetty Dimple, and she sells small pieces of magic locked inside found natural objects like good luck pebbles or energy acorns. This conveys that magic is possible but not always super powerful and also difficult to do. These are the most important aspects of my magical world. They are important, but I only give as much information as I think my readers need. I think about small but telling ways to convey how to take things from my imagination to my readers. How do you focus in on those important telling details? 4, I often use rituals as a great way of showing setting. What are the rituals in your world? Life is full of small rituals. They do make us who we are, even if we tend to overlook them. The commute to work, the school run, what we eat for dinner would all be very different if we lived in a different country. I often use food as a way of conveying many things in my books, as I think food is not only important from a sustenance point of view, but it is hugely culturally important. Whether your characters will delight over a homemade cake, a homegrown carrot, or complain about the taste of bean stew, or pretend they haven't eaten breakfast, all of that allows the characters to show how they interact with the people around them and also the world they inhabit. 5. Maps. I always have a basic idea in my head of where things are, but one of the fun ways I make my world seem more real to me and helps me with the details that are important is that at some stage of my writing process, it will involve drawing a map. Sometimes it's an outline of a house and the juxtaposition of rooms, sometimes a street, a whole village, or even wider. There is something about drawing, maybe the real life feel of pencil on paper and being able to see a picture of something outside of my head that makes my setting more real to me.